A new discussion is gaining momentum around the Los Angeles Rams, and believe it or not, it all revolves around a player who is still available on the free agent market. I'm about to tell you all the details, but first make sure you've already hit the like button. But only do that if you've been an LA Rams fan for more than 20 years. The other day I asked who was attending games back in the 70s, and I was surprised by how many fans from that era are here on the channel. It's great to see you all. Maximum respect. Now let's get to the topic. According to reports, the Rams were identified by a CBS Sports journalist as the best landing spot for veteran wide receiver Stefon Diggs. And the reason behind this possibility is generating plenty of debate about what the team's offense could look like during the 2026 NFL season. What do you think about that? The idea immediately grabs attention because the Rams are already viewed as an elite offensive team. The report points to an offense led by quarterback Matthew Stafford, alongside star receivers Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. Even with that level of talent already in place, the suggestion is that the Rams may still be looking for another weapon capable of taking their passing game to an even higher level. What makes this conversation particularly interesting is that Stefon Diggs remains unsigned. Although there have been discussions about off-field issues, one of the most significant developments mentioned is that Diggs will not face a suspension. That detail changes the situation considerably, as it removes one of the main obstacles teams might have been weighing when deciding whether or not to sign him. As a result, attention shifts back to the football side of the equation, and from a purely football perspective, the fit becomes fascinating. The argument begins with the current state of the Rams' wide receiver room. While there are younger options on the roster, questions remain regarding who can consistently step forward as a reliable third receiving threat. C.J. Daniels was mentioned as a player with potential, but one who still has to prove himself. Jordan Whittington was described as a player who did not make the expected leap forward. Meanwhile, Kate Mutfield was characterized as someone who did not show enough chemistry with Matthew Stafford during the previous season. That context is important because it helps explain why a player like Diggs immediately becomes attractive. Rather than asking a young receiver to develop into a major contributor, the Rams would be bringing in someone with proven production. And when looking at the numbers highlighted in the discussion, the production is difficult to ignore. During the previous season, Diggs appeared in all 17 games and recorded 85 receptions for 1,113 receiving yards. Those numbers placed him among the more productive receivers in football. He also totaled 4 touchdowns on 102 targets, while recording 51 receiving first downs, a figure that ranked among the league's top performers. Several efficiency metrics were also emphasized. His separation grade was described as above average, while his catch percentage was extremely impressive. Most notably, he finished the season without a receiving fumble. Those statistics paint the picture of a receiver who continues to contribute at a high level and who can still play a significant role within a competitive offense. The discussion also explored something beyond the numbers: the way Diggs would complement the skill sets already present in the Rams' offense. Puka Nacua was described as an all-around receiver capable of impacting the game in multiple ways. Davante Adams was characterized as a major red zone threat and a physical presence. Diggs, meanwhile, was presented as a player capable of operating underneath, while also contributing in other areas of the passing game. In other words, the belief is that Diggs would not simply duplicate what already exists on the roster. Instead, he would add another dimension. That matters because offensive balance has become one of the central themes of this entire discussion. The argument is that Diggs could help distribute opportunities more evenly throughout the offense. Rather than relying so heavily on one player, the Rams could create additional answers for opposing defenses. That idea becomes even more compelling when examining the numbers posted by Puka Nacua. According to the statistics discussed, Nacua delivered a remarkable season. He appeared in 16 games and accumulated 129 receptions, leading the league in that category. He added 1,715 receiving yards, ranking second, while also scoring 10 touchdowns. His 166 targets ranked among the league leaders as well. The numbers demonstrate just how central Nacua was to the offense. At the same time, they raise an interesting question. Can adding another established receiver help reduce some of that burden? That appears to be one of the primary arguments being made in favor of pursuing Diggs. The belief is not that Nacua would become less important, quite the opposite. The belief is that defenses would have a more difficult time focusing so heavily on him if another accomplished receiver were also demanding attention. As a result, the offense could become more balanced. That concept surfaced repeatedly throughout the discussion. There was also significant attention placed on how Diggs could help Matthew Stafford. One of the key points raised was Diggs's ability to operate on shorter routes. In situations where Stafford faces pressure, having another receiver capable of quickly creating separation could provide a valuable outlet. Those types of plays may not always generate headlines, but they can keep drives alive. The argument is that adding a reliable target who consistently catches the football could reduce mistakes and help maintain offensive rhythm. The conversation even extended to how Nacua himself might benefit. Nacua's blocking ability was specifically praised, with the suggestion that a deeper receiving core could allow the Rams to utilize some of his strengths in different ways. Instead of carrying such an overwhelming share of the passing workload, Nacua could potentially become part of a more diversified offensive structure. Of course, no potential move comes without concerns. One of the major topics addressed was team chemistry. The discussion acknowledged concerns regarding Diggs's off-field reputation and whether that could become a factor inside the Rams' locker room. Particular attention was given to how that dynamic could affect younger players. However, the conversation also pointed to reports describing Diggs as a strong teammate during his most recent stop, someone who was viewed positively within the locker room and on the practice field. That creates an interesting contrast. On one hand, there are questions that naturally accompany any veteran player carrying public scrutiny. On the other hand, there is evidence suggesting he can contribute positively within a team environment. How the Rams would evaluate that balance remains one of the most important elements of the entire discussion. Then there is the financial side. This may ultimately determine whether any potential move becomes realistic. According to the market projections discussed, Diggs is expected to command a contract averaging approximately $13.8 million annually, with an estimated value around 2 years and $27 million. Yet there is also a belief that the current market could force that number lower. Because he remains unsigned at this stage of the offseason, the possibility exists that he may need to accept a reduced salary in order to join a contender. Several contract comparisons were mentioned during the discussion, creating a framework for where Diggs might ultimately land financially. The conclusion reached was that a contract in the range of $10 million to $11 million per season could make sense. From the Rams' perspective, that number becomes extremely important. The lower the cost, the easier it becomes to justify the move. The higher the cost, the more difficult the decision becomes. And that leads to another layer of this story. The Rams already possess significant offensive talent. Adding Diggs would not be about filling a desperate need. It would be about strengthening an already powerful unit. That distinction changes the calculation. When a team already features major offensive weapons, every additional investment must be weighed carefully against existing priorities. The discussion repeatedly emphasized that point. The talent upgrade appears obvious. The financial commitment is where the debate begins. Another intriguing aspect of the conversation involved offensive coordinator Nate Scheelhaase. The argument was made that he already has an abundance of offensive weapons at his disposal. Bringing Diggs into the picture would create even more possibilities. At the same time, it would also create additional responsibilities. Managing touches, targets, and expectations becomes increasingly complicated when multiple star players share the same offense. That challenge cannot be ignored. Every receiver wants opportunities. Every playmaker wants involvement. Maintaining that balance becomes essential. The discussion suggested that if Diggs were added, the coaching staff would face the task of ensuring that everyone remained engaged and productive within the offensive structure. For now, though, the biggest takeaway remains simple. Stefon Diggs is available. The Rams have been identified as an ideal landing spot. The statistical production remains strong. The fit within the offense appears logical, and the potential upside is significant. As training camp approaches, this is exactly the type of possibility that captures attention, because it involves a proven veteran joining an offense that already possesses elite talent. Whether that possibility becomes reality is another question entirely. The financial details, roster considerations, and organizational priorities will ultimately determine the outcome. But based strictly on the arguments presented, it is easy to understand why this scenario continues to generate excitement. The vision being discussed is clear. Matthew Stafford throwing to Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and Stefon Diggs within the same offense. Supporters of the idea see an attack with multiple answers for every defensive challenge, a group capable of creating matchup problems across the field, and an offense with even greater flexibility than it already possesses. For now, the discussion remains hypothetical. Yet it is one of the most intriguing Rams storylines currently being debated, especially because Diggs remains on the market, and because the potential fit continues to attract attention from analysts and fans alike. What do you think about the possibility of the Rams pursuing Stefon Diggs? Would adding him make the receiving core significantly stronger, or do you believe the current group already has everything it needs heading into the 2026 season? Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to click on the video on your screen for more Rams news and updates. The latest developments arrive here first, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.